Would you still buy an iPhone if it cost $3,500? That's the price tag Donald Trump says we might face unless Apple moves its production to the United States. But is that even possible? Or is this just political theater? Let's break it down.
On Apple, you said this morning that if they don't make their iPhones in the U.S., you're going to hit them with a 25% tariff. Right. Do you have the power to tariff one single company? And why would you want to hurt an American company in that way?
It would be more. It would be also Samsung and anybody that makes that product. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair. So anybody that makes that product, and that'll start on, I guess, the end of June. It'll come out. I think we have that appropriately done by the end of June. So if they make that product. Now, again, when they build their plant here, there's no tariff. So they're going to be building plants here. But I had an understanding with Tim that he wouldn't be doing this. He said he's going to India to build plants. I said, that's okay to go to India, but you're not going to sell into here without tariffs. And that's the way it is. Yeah.
Well, why would you hurt an American company?
What makes you confident, sir, that Apple can build in the United States at a price that American consumers?
Oh, they can. No, they can. And a lot of it's so computerized now. These plants are amazing if you look at them, but they can do that. And actually, as you know, Apple's coming in with $500 billion. So are the chip companies. We have all of the chip companies coming in. The biggest, $500 billion, $200 billion, $250 billion they're spending. But we're talking about the iPhone now, and the iPhone. If they're going to sell it in America, I want it to be built in the United States. They're able to do that.
The president is trying to bring back precision manufacturing to the U.S.
President Donald Trump is threatening to impose a 25% tariff on Apple if it doesn't build iPhones in the U.S. On Fox News, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent explains the president's latest comments on Apple.
One of our greatest vulnerabilities is this external production, especially in semiconductors, and a large part of Apple's components are in semiconductors, so we would like to have Apple help us.
President Trump has been ratcheting up the pressure on Apple.
And I had a little problem with Tim Cook yesterday.
Trump recently called out Apple CEO Tim Cook for his company's plan to build US-bound iPhones in India.
I said to him, Tim, you're my friend. I treated you very good. You're coming in with $500 billion, but now I hear you're building all over India. I don't want you building in India.
Experts estimate that US-made iPhones could cost more than 3 times their current price because it's so costly to replicate Asia's highly complex production ecosystem.
You build that in the US with a fab in West Virginia, New Jersey, there'll be $3,500 iPhones. The reality of it, it's a fictional tale.
So it's President Trump versus Apple. Donald Trump threatening Tim Cook. And this is one you might not have seen coming because the Apple CEO was on stage with President Trump at his inauguration. Tim Cook personally donated $1 million to Trump's inauguration. And then today, a major threat to this iconic US company, Apple. Trump is threatening a 25% tariff that Apple would have to pay for its iPhones imported into the US. Trump saying that he warned Tim Cook of this. He made it clear that he wanted iPhones manufactured and built inside the United States. Now, Trump gave Apple an initial tariff exemption on products made in China last month, according to the Washington Post, but that appears to be over, that goodwill. Just last week, Trump revealed this beef with Cook.
I had a little problem with Tim Cook yesterday. I said to him, Tim, you're my friend. I treated you very good. You're coming in with $500 billion, but now I hear you're building all over India. I don't want you building in India. But I said to Tim, look, we've treated you really good. We put up with all the plants that you built in China for years. Now you got to build us. We're not interested in you building in India.
And financial and tech experts generally agree, universally agree, that moving iPhone production to the United States would cost a lot, as high as $3,500 for an iPhone to make it in the United States. There are thousands of different parts, hundreds of different sources, dozens of different countries that supply those parts, an incredibly global manufacturing process that would be incredibly expensive to move back to the United States.
2 social media posts from President Trump came out a few hours ago and are rattling the markets before the opening bell. Trump now threatening 25% tariffs on Apple for manufacturing its iPhones overseas. He's also recommending a straight 50% tariff on the European Union starting on June 1st. That's a week from Sunday. after complaining the trade negotiations with the EU have stalled. The reaction from Wall Street has been swift and negative, with Dow futures tumbling nearly 500 points, while the S&P and NASDAQ are seeing significant losses as well.
Well, let's break apart a couple of things on the Apple story here. First of all, at least my understanding, and I think it's everybody's understanding, you can't just tariff one company directly. You can't just put a tariff, a 25% tariff, as the president has described, on Apple specifically. You put tariffs on countries. That's how this works. So invariably, if you start to try to sort of unwind what this really means, there's the possibility that anything coming from, frankly, India or China would have to have a minimum of a 25% tariff on it, because that would be the only way that you could tariff Apple at these levels. It also means that it would have an impact on every other product coming out of India or China. And right now, there had been an expectation that there would be a lot lower tariffs, at least coming out of a place like India. So we can think about that. There's the other component part of this, which is that the president has been quite vociferous about condemning the EU, other countries, about their regulations and critiques of American companies. For a very long time, they have said the EU and China and other countries have done a disservice to American businesses by trying to regulate them, by trying to criticize them. So it's very interesting to see here the president of the United States criticizing one of the most iconic American companies in the world, of course, having just met, by the way, with Tim Cook in the Oval Office earlier this week.
$500 each if Donald Trump gets his way. Trump today threatened to put a 25% tariff on everything coming into the U.S. from Apple. That's iPads, that's iPhones, unless Apple moves all of its production to the U.S. But Apple has said if they move production to the U.S., and the analysts say as well, the cost of an iPhone will go up from $1,200 to $1,500 to $3,500. iPads would see a similar increase. The problem is a couple things according to Apple. One, we don't have enough engineers in this country for them to hire. Second of all, they've got all of their production abroad. iPhones are made in India and China, or at least they're assembled there mostly. And for Apple to move them here, analysts are saying could take decades, but also could cost massive amounts of money. Some of the estimates even go as high as like $100,000 for an iPhone. Basically, can't afford to do it. The third problem is Americans charge too much. We've got basically our workers charge a hell of a lot more than workers abroad, and it's going to cost more. So the question becomes, are you willing to pay $3,500 for a new iPhone? The larger question is, why is Trump doing this? Why is Trump attacking our biggest companies? Apple is one of our most successful companies ever, and Donald Trump isn't just trying to destroy the company, but he's trying to destroy you and me by increasing the price of our iPhone, and that's not what I voted for.
Donald Trump's latest demand has put Apple in a tight spot. The former president has insisted that Apple should manufacture iPhones in the United States or face a 25% tariff if sold in the U.S. market. Trump has been vocal about his discontent with Apple CEO Tim Cook over the company's plans to build iPhones in India for the U.S. market. But Is it really feasible for Apple to shift its production to the U.S.? The company has long argued that it can't manufacture iPhones in America due to a lack of skilled engineers. In fact, Steve Jobs had discussed this issue with Barack Obama back in 2010, highlighting the need for better education in the U.S. to produce the engineers Apple needs. Experts agree that reshoring iPhone production would be a massive undertaking, potentially tripling the cost of each device. With the current complex production ecosystem in Asia, replicating it in the U.S. would require significant investment, around $30 billion and 3 years of effort just to move 10% of the supply chain. It's clear that Apple's manufacturing plans are more complicated than just bringing jobs back to America.
Trump's tariffs were meant to put America first, but would they actually hurt the very people they aim to help? That $3,500 iPhone might cost us more than money. Is it worth the price for American manufacturing? Drop your thoughts below, and if you found this interesting, hit like, smash that subscribe button, and turn on notifications. We break down complex news with facts that matter. See you in the next one. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.